Welcome back to Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier, sponsored by Four Paws Restaurant, the iconic fine dining restaurant in St. Paul, Minnesota, with wonderful food, attentive professional service, and fabulous wines. Decent wine steward, hopefully, most nights. Um, I found, tasted with the staff a bottle of wine this week that was just astonishing. Really, really astonishing. It was Madeira. It was Broadbent's, let me get the nomenclature right, fine, rich, sweet Madeira. So it's a 5-year-old Madeira that Bartholomew Broadbent produces. Of course, Madeira has the reputation of living forever and being indestructible. 200 years old is not too old for Madeira, and no matter how long it's been open, it's still just delicious. And the acidity in it, balanced with the sweetness, makes it very special. And I know Bartholomew's father considered Madeira the greatest wine in the world. Um, and he's certainly a credible source. But this was really put to the test this past week, when we had some electricians in the building, in the restaurant, running wiring for better Wi-Fi. And one of them found a bottle of Broadbent fine, rich, sweet Madeira above the ceiling tiles on the third floor, about 2/3 full, 1/3 empty. So apparently, somebody who worked in the restaurant back before the restaurant closed 6 years ago or so, 6 or 7 years ago, at least 6 or 7 years ago, had this stashed above the ceiling tiles, I assume, so that he could occasionally have a little sip of it during his shift. That's the only really explanation for it to be up there. And of course, there couldn't be worse storage conditions than above the ceiling tiles on the third floor of a building that was closed for 6 or 7 years, because the air conditioning was turned off. And of course, in the summer, it gets really hot, and it gets really hot. And even though it's Minnesota, it gets really hot. And above the ceiling tiles on the third floor, well, I don't really know, but it has to be really hot. And that bottle was up there for at least 6 or 7 years. I took a picture of it and sent it to Bartholomew and asked him if he could surmise how old it was. And there's actually a number on the bottle that's very faint that would have indicated how old this particular bottle was, but that had been rubbed off somehow, or obscured by dust or something. The bottle was really, really dusty. But this bottle of wine, this Madeira, having been stored impossibly horribly, with old wine storage, the quality of the cork and the conditions in which it's stored is everything. This bottle of wine could not possibly have been stored worse for at least 6 or 7 years. Who knows how long? I mean, it could have been up there. The restaurant, the building was turned into a restaurant in 1970, so it could theoretically have been up there for over 50 years. I don't know exactly how long Bartholomew's been producing this fine, rich, sweet Madeira, but there's no real way to know how long it was up there, and there's no way to know how old this bottle is, or was, because we drank it. Um, but it's at least 7 years old, and at least stored horribly, horribly. You couldn't have worse. Well, I guess you could. The Sahara would be worse conditions, but not a lot. And not only that, but it's the temperature change. Between the winter and the summer, the cork goes pushed out, the cork drawn in. That's even worse. Well, this bottle was perfect. Having been stored that way for at least 6 or 7 years, this bottle was perfect. It had showed no signs of deterioration whatsoever. It's delicious. It's sweet. It has intense acidity, as Madeira always does. It's explosively delicious. It was an amazing bottle of wine. I tasted it with the staff on Saturday, just as an illustration of the indestructible nature of Madeira, so they could experience it firsthand. And then we had a party in our wine cellar Saturday night, and I gave each one of them about 1.5 ounces, just as a curiosity. Um, and it was delicious. Now, it had a lot of sediment. I don't know if the storage contributed to it having so much sediment, but sediment in wine is not a negative thing. It's just a thing about some wines have a lot of sediment. And some wines are a lot better because they have a lot of sediment because it means they weren't excessively fined or filtered. Anyway, this bottle of Madeira, Bartholomew Fine Rich Sweet Madeira, Broadbent, some fine rich sweet Madeira, stored impossibly, terribly wrong, was absolutely fabulous. You just never know. Always open the bottle. You just never know. Thanks for tuning in for Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier. Come by and see me at Four Paws. We have amazing food, amazing wine, and amazing service in a very, very beautiful house.